everybody wants to know, is this holdup with healthcare going to hurt your ability and your colleagues' ability to get to other issues like tax reform?
I hope not, and we want to get to tax reform as quick as we can, something we promised the American people. We want to do both. That's what we told the American people we're going to do. I think the holdup right now is, the budget's what unlocks everything. You can't get to tax reform unless you have reconciliation. You can't get reconciliation unless you pass a budget.
But you can get to tax reform without health care, correct?
I mean, you could, but I think we're going to get health care. Okay. The process that the Senate's going through is kind of mirrors what took place in the House. There was a date when they were going to have a vote. It gets postponed. There's a break now. Come back from the break. Hopefully it gets done. That's how it worked in the House. We hope it works that way in the Senate.
So listen, the budget vote was postponed in the House of Representatives. Right. That's got to have impacts, actually, potentially more impacts on your ability to get to tax reform.
Well, what we're concerned about is this idea that we're going to increase spending and not have offsets, like the offsets to the level that we think is appropriate and needed to deal with the $20 trillion debt, to start to deal with the $20 trillion debt, and this idea that there's going to be this border adjustment tax. I mean, I don't think Americans elected Republicans to come to Washington and put a new tax on the American people and increase spending. So that's our concern with this budget, because that's where we're headed. Once you pass a budget and that's settled, then you can move into the tax reform, and then you can and you set the spending levels. So let's make sure we're not spending more, and that we're actually not putting a new tax on the American people. That's what we're focused on.
So this House budget vote, in particular, would raise funding levels for several things, including defense spending. I think it's something like $150 billion over a 10-year window. The border adjustment tax says that it'll save $100 billion over a 10-year window, or at least from the House Speaker's perspective.
Even more than that. Yeah.
So, as a new form of revenue, but you guys were talking about this several weeks ago, but what are some new ideas in order to, if you're not going to do VAT?
We don't start from that premise. Yeah. This idea that somehow letting people keep more of their money is a cost to the government. I just think that's wrong. That's not what Republicans are supposed to believe. It's not what conservatives believe. So let's not function in this revenue neutral world, which is a fancy way of saying that the tax burden stays the same. We just shift around who pays what. And under that scenario, what always happens is the connected class here in Washington gets a pretty good deal, and the middle class families get a bad deal. So let's not function in a revenue neutral world. Let's just design good tax policy. Let's not put a whole new tax on the American economy, on the American people, this border adjustment tax. Let's just say that thing is dead. Let's stop it, and then let's move on with what we need to do for the tax.
You've said that you want to get the House Freedom Caucus proposals or framework for your tax plan before an August recess. Are you guys still on pace to put that out?
We're working on those fundamental principles, but really, when you boil it all down, let's let families keep more of their money, simpler, flatter, fairer personal income tax code, and then let's design a corporate business tax code that is conducive to producing economic growth, mainly lowering the corporate rate.
So the Speaker Paul Ryan obviously has disagreements with some of those principles. Are you satisfied with the level of engagement from the White House on tax reform?
They're working on it. We met with the White House last week, and they're working on. We encourage them to put their plan together as soon as possible. I think they understand that this border adjustment tax is not the way to go, which is a good sign. So they're working on that. The sooner we can get to the tax plan and we can see what's there, I think the easier it is to pass the budget, because there's no border adjustment tax in there. That I think is more incentive for us to be supportive of a budget, as long as we're not increasing spending.
Some of your colleagues, including some of your colleagues in the Freedom Caucus, have proposed potentially tying infrastructure to tax reform. Do you agree with that? Do you not agree with that? Do you think it's feasible?
I'm open, but I don't think that's where we're headed right now. It's a tax reform bill done in the reconciliation package. What we want on the savings side, we understand you're going to need to increase defense spending, and there's going to be some increase in the discretionary spending. We want offsets in mandatory spending, and we think the focus should be on welfare reform. This idea that moving people from welfare to work is a good thing for everybody, good thing for economy, good thing for the Treasury, good thing for those people who've been stuck in the welfare system. So we think marrying those together is good economic policy. That's what we're looking to do on the savings side. And then, of course, I don't want to see this border adjustment tax, and we don't want to pass a budget before we know that border adjustment tax is.
We've got about a minute left. I want to ask you about the Senate health care. We talked about it a little bit, but one of the issues that came up was this issue of opioid addiction funding.
Yeah.
And when you look at states like Pennsylvania, where I'm from, Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan,
it's real tough, yeah.
Do you think that the government has a role in funding those type of entitlement? I don't want to call it entitlement, but funding those types of programs.
We've already moved down that road. And I think everyone needs to get involved because this is a serious problem in the states all across the country, but certainly in our state and in your state. Serious problem. So look, I think the more solutions are going to come from families, churches, and communities, but federal involvement, we've already passed Senator Portman's legislation last Congress, is I think, beneficial as well, helping the programs that need to happen to get these people off their addiction problem, away from their addiction, and into a better position in life.